It's thunder. We're
I
live, Mr.
know.
Wade.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. Uh, we have tonight's program being on Monday. Our chairman, Mr. Gregory Brackett, should be with us any minute now. I guess he's probably loading up something in the background for his own presentation, so we got to be patient with him and let him have his opportunity to do that so we can have a cohesive program. Nevertheless, we usually try to start on time or nearly as close to time as possible. Tonight we were delinquent in that objective. We were a bit late by at least, I would say, maybe 15 minutes to be exact. So I decided to open up the program. I'll give a short word of prayer and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Wade for him to do Bible reading for us. After which Mr. Wade will continue with the community public service announcements and cautions. Let me go ahead and bow my head and say the prayer, and let's move on. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, thanking thee first and foremost for the privilege of life that thou hast given us, and for the opportunity that thou hast allowed us to still be alive today among our family members, friends, and loved ones. Please continue to guide and protect and look after our family members for us, our friends. Please continue to look after our country of Belize, its people and leadership. And please continue to look after the well-being and safety and security of the United States of America, its people and leadership as well. And we pray that thou would continue to abide and bless and strengthen and encourage the rest of humanity, especially those people who are in areas of wars and tornadoes and fires and volcanoes and storms, cold weather, and all kind of other issues that we human beings have to deal with and endure. We pray that thou must help us on this program that we may present a program tonight that accrues to the well-being and benefit of our country of Belize and its people. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. I yield to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leonard, for that one prayer. The
You're welcome, Mr.
country
Wade.
and the world needs a prayer. We need to start to turn to God, because He's the only one that's gonna bring us out of bondage and settle the the ills of the earth. No
Amen.
one else. And on that note, uh, like always, time is waits for no one. Um, Again, thank you for that one prayer, Leonard.
Yes, sir.
I will do a reading from Timothy, Timothy 1, chapter 4, 1 to 10. 1 to 10. It reads, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and teaching of demons. Though the sincerity of liars whose conscience are seared, who forbade marriage and require abstinence from food that God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. For everything created by God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving.
Amen.
For it is made holy by the word of God and prayer. If you put these things before the brother, you will be a good servant of Jesus Christ, being trained in the words of the faith and of the good doctrine that you have followed. Have nothing to do with irrelevant, silly myth. Rather, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way,
Amen.
as it is whole promise for the present life and also for the life to come. The saying is trustworthy and deserving of full acceptance. For to this end we toil and strive, because we have our hope set on the living God, who is the Savior of all people, especially of those who believe. That's my reading from Timothy 1, chapter 4, 1 to 10. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to
Thank
see you.
thank you very
And
much, sir.
Greg is in the
Uh,
background, the chairman for tonight.
and
We
uh,
we are handing it over back to you, sir.
um, Mr. Chairman, before
Go
we
ahead, Mr.
form
Brackett.
before you formally move forward, I just want to bring to your attention that I had taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Gregory Morrison as a special guest for tonight, and he said he would try and be available, and so I'm looking forward to him coming on because he always gives us a little extra um, angle on our presentation. No? Um, and we had invited him the last time he was on to come back. So well, he didn't volunteer. I called him asking. Since he was amenable to come back tonight, I'm just trying to bring that to your attention that at some point he might pop up in the background, and either you or I might need to bring him in. No, thank you very much, sir, and God bless. I hope we have a nice program tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
Good night to the people at home and abroad. Welcome to this 242nd edition of Belizean Affairs. I thank you guys for sitting with me virtually. You are highly appreciated. And tonight I expect to bring a program that will enlighten the Belizean people about what is happening in our country. I intend to show political financing. I intend to show political gerrymandering. And I intend to show how the present government, as we have spoke about it here, had done unconstitutional state of emergency and has no shame to come back and do what, gentlemen, what they always do?
Tell on
Tell on
themselves and each
themselves.
other.
That is correct.
Tell on themselves.
That is correct. I had the opportunity this morning to listen to the Prime Minister and open your eyes. And of course, based on what he said, I had to dissect the video recording because I wanted to bring it to the Belizean people step by step to show how political narrative is alive and will and living well, and how political narrative is also backed by some television station to make it seems as though everything is alive and living well. Let's go to the first tape.
And welcome back. As we mentioned before our first commercial break, we're embarking on a two-part discussion with the Prime Minister. He's here with us in studio. Good morning, PM.
Good morning, PM.
Good morning to the both of you. First of all, things bright.
You like the space? Yes. Things bright, no?
I think it's kind of a reflection of the economy, that things are going well. So I think you are showing it. So thank you very much. Congratulations, though.
Thanks.
Thanks, PM.
And let me start out by, you beat me to the punch. Happy New Year to both of you, to your family, to your staff, and to everybody. It's still, the year just started. So want to wish you all the best. And as always, looking forward to seeing what this new year will bring for us.
Same to you, PM.
PM, I want us to get straight into our conversation with you this morning. We want to begin with getting your thoughts via reflection of 2024. So we have some questions that we'll share as we go along. The first one that I want you to respond to is, what would you consider to be the most single transformative achievement in 2024 under your administration?
In 2024, there are a number of them actually. NHI, the expansion of NHI, that I think we're close to 260,000 Belizeans that have registered. And it's a wonderful feeling when you would meet people coming home from an NHI clinic. And I always say this, I remember the Orange Walk family from Orange Walk Central. And they were just coming out, father, mother, and two kids. And ellos lo que dice, Baichan, esa cosa es lo mejor que puedes hacer. Esa NHI dice, toda mi familia dice, $20 gasté, $20 they spent. And they got a full checkup, they got medicines, they got everything, providing primary health care to our citizens. And also by combining the social services with the private sector in a competitive setting, you get more efficiencies and you get even better service, because now you have to compete for that service. And even the public sector is competing, like Mitchell Roberts here in Belize City. And I was just talking to the minister on Saturday, Minister Bernard, that said the Northern Regional should also apply to get to provide NHI services, because then they get paid, and then with that money you have to have a certain facilities, certain kind of services, they monitor you, everything as like the private sector. So that is one singular achievement. Tourism, the Minister of Tourism, who I have very great regard for, and I think he's one of the probably most transformative ministers of tourism, picked up tourism from a very, very low point in 2020. And 2024, we broke the 2019 record. I think we're going to hit about 562,000, about 60,000 more than the high in 2020. The other one is the issue of the BPOs. The BPOs went from about 2,500 to about 17,000 in 2024. 2024, we are providing, the BPOs are going to provided approximately $134 million in salaries. About 90% of those people working in the BPOs are young people, and 60% plus are women. So for the first time in a manifesto, job creation does not have to be one of the main issues. We said in Plan Belize that within 10 years we want to provide full employment for women and young people. We've accomplished that. Actually need more workers. So just looking at...
Now, gentlemen and people at home and abroad, you heard what the Prime Minister had to say. Mr. Wade, I will go to you first on the NHI the Prime Minister is speaking about, because we are well aware of the redundancy we have with dilapidated hospitals that don't have medicine, that don't have the right care for Belizeans. I go to you, sir.
Good night, my Belizean people, both at home and abroad, And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for queuing up that tape, because, healthcare is one of the things that, poor people, our government hospitals is one of the institutions that poor people goes to. And, if they listen to that man, and then they remember what they go through. Um, we played it here on through our medium and through our program. Sometimes in the news that there is not even gauze, bandages, you know, um, and all the horrible things that happened in our public hospitals. And here you have this man talking about NHI, um, directly, um, benefit poor people, and he mentioned Orange Walk. No, Mister Man, because pretty soon you'll soon be a Johnny, just like me and everybody else on the street. When the house is dissolved, you'll be a Mister Man. You know, I don't know how you not choke. When you say these things, right? Because what you are saying is not what the poor people is going through. You did the Bolido, Mr. Man, and you says that Bolido will cover NHI, but Mr. Man, why don't you be real to the Belizean people when they go to these so-called NHI outlets? All these people go and do is get a BP check, get a prescription to go to the pharmacy. There is no medication at these, and there is no specialty service at these, your place where you talk about. And who and where do these doctors refer these patients to? These NHI outlets, Orange Walk, in Orange Walk, to KHMH, or to the public hospital to get one X-ray, to get one ultrasound, and that's all of, and a chest X-ray. That is all that these public institution has, Mr. Man. What is wrong with you? Huh? Great accomplishment. Oh, kudos to you, Mr. Man. For those who have sense and listen to you, man, whatever is spewing out of your mouth stinks. Because in reality, you know why you mention NHI. You know who is profiting. You know every damn thing about NHI. One thing for sure, it's not the poor and less fortunate Belizean is profiting from NHI. Say no more. He who feels it knows it. Look at all the babies you had just to get a CT scan that is not even a multi-purpose CT scan, Mr. Man. How many times you went to the house to get a simple CT scan that internationally that's in every hospital? That's one of the basic equipment that is in these hospitals. And what you and your Bernard guy do, your Minister of Health? Huh? I'll say no more because public knowledge. Those who don't understand what I'm saying, play these tapes back and listen to the venom that comes out of this. And sadly, not a Bricenio money, not a Bernard money, not a PUP money. Wasted taxpayers' money. Mr. Man, and all your accomplishment. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Mr. Brackett, we heard three things that the Prime Minister said: NHI, tourism, and BPO.
I want to
I
bust all
want
three of them.
to specify that I want you to speak on tourism because we heard him say that he had triple or maybe five times
Quadruple.
tourism than in 2020. Is the Prime Minister really speaking to the public? Because back in 2020 there was COVID. So how could tourism be flourishing then? But I leave it to you, sir. Take it.
Sir, sir, you kind of blinded me just now by presenting that one particular subject for me to comment on because I was really set up just about ready to bust the bubble of the NHI. I wanted, would you allow me at least a couple of statements on that before I,
Go ahead, sir.
okay. Okay, I was going to try and say it differently, but I'm trying to say it this way now because I think it's going to come off better and with a little less anger on my side. Where does this prime minister, or this gentleman that claims to be a prime minister, because a prime minister is the head of government in countries like ours, who look after the interests and the well-being of the country for which he is being paid as a job. But where does this gentleman, I can even call the man gentleman, where does this guy comes off with the idea that he can address the Belizean public in such contemptuous, and I would say criminally contemptuous way or manner, and pretend that he can grandstand there and tell us all kind of craziness as if we are not actually living what he's talking about. This gentleman fails to remember that by him allowing the private institutions to participate, the private hospitals, let me be specific. I want to be as specific as possible. I don't want to be misunderstood or for people having to run to some other source to try and figure out what the hell I'm talking about. I'm going to say it and I'll say it as raw as I can. Where does this man comes off with the idea that one of his greatest accomplishments is to allow the private hospitals, one of which he and his minions took our money that the Venezuelans sent to us to build house and bought that hospital and then turn around and no Belizean can get a 1 cent amount of service out of that hospital after they took our money and bought it. They now own it privately, and he's going to come to us and say that's one of his greatest achievements to have allowed this private hospital that they own to participate in the NHI. When the NHI was set up, it was set up so that the money that the government puts into medical facilities and services for the people, which by the way comes from our tax, as Mr. Wade has had dutifully intimated earlier, was supposed to be to provide funding for them to be able to buy gauze and cotton and tape and other medical things to help provide the services that we were complaining about. Why is he going to say that's one of his best achievements, to allow the private institutions who doesn't give no public service to nobody or doesn't service the poor people? They're actually set up there to service people that have money that could pay for the services. But of course, the government officials and the top officials them in government, for example, the CEOs and the other executive of the, those individuals are high class, with a saying of we society, highly paid. They have the money to go to private institutions and pay for their services. But instead, the government let them go to the private hospitals, get their private services at a much expensive and exorbitant price to fool treasury. And then most of the money will be bleed out of we treasury from we NHI program into these private institutions who will be rendering the private services at a higher private cost. And or public hospitals and public clinics will still be running out of funds. Then you turn around and say that the money that they were getting from the Bolivares, Mr. Weird earlier referred to, would be used to help the private, to help the NHI rolling out. That is just providing additional money to fatten the coffers of his private bodies. Because the government doesn't own that private hospital, even though they have money by it. So this jackal, as I call them, and these kleptocrats, as I call them, and these hyenas and vultures, as I call them, which name calling is befit their conduct, which is why I'm always tempted to use those terms to clarify and classify who and what I'm talking about. These kleptocrats are only interested in where money rules. So long as some money is shaking and rattling, they're going to be doing good for it. But not as far as the public issues are concerned. So he is talking about one lady and probably a husband and some kids that he say he met at the hospital. How often does he show up at that hospital, by the way? How many other people he probably met? Or why is it that he refers to that one particular family alone? They can get in his Orange Walk Hospital. That's his personal district where he runs his elections from in the Orange Walk town. And it wouldn't be bad for him to provide for them or make sure that they can get what they need. The whole rest of the country need those same services, Mr. Prime Minister. That's your responsibility. We don't need to check whether or not the people that were just running from across the border or how long ago they came across the border, because they weren't even talking to him in English, which is our official language. That now he's trying to talk craziness about making Spanish an official language, which is why he get on the show now and telling us what the people are telling in Spanish. Those people up there in his district that he allowed to come across the border and go live there so that he could have enough people to vote for him, gets the services from our patrimony. And we, the Belizeans, especially the black one on South Side, gets no such services. Let him show us the Belizean on South Side, the black Belizean on South Side, who got any services at that price that he was quoting from the person in his district. None. There's none. My point as regards to the tourism, Mr. Chairman, since you had allowed me the privilege to vent out that little part of my system, I heard.
Thank you.
Wait. I heard the tourism minister get on the airwave today and mention that he didn't care that America is labeling Belize as a problem country. Because that's not, according to him, that's going to stop tourism and it's not going to do us any harm in Belize. This man that the tourism minister, he's supposed to know enough not to make that kind of stupid statement there. Even if it's something that was in his head, he should not spew it out. Because now what he has done is present a challenge to the United States government to turn around and put them big thump on for we economy. These people will just declare us as they had done, as a no-go country, and sabotage we tourism. And who want feel then? Not him or his buddies who are milking off all the cream from the top of the economy of the country. That we, the Belizean people, want to suffer again. That we want to get taxed more to make up the difference of where the tourism, when our community, when they start to label with bad labels. I would just hope that the United States government get the sense that none of the people supposed to become the victim of these hyenas and jackals and kleptocrats' behavior. Because they're not serving us well and they're not doing the right thing on our behalf. He came out to the United States and make promises that he was going to take care of certain things on behalf of some of the Belizean people. And as of today, date that we're having this discussion, very little of it has been followed through and dealt with. I yield back again, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. People at home and abroad, there is three things the Prime Minister had spoken about: NHI, tourism, and BPOs. And I want to say this to you, the public. Tonight's shows will really show and tell about what we do here and Belizean affairs. As you heard my cousin just said about what America is doing to tourism. But we will prove tonight how they are in denial. And I will not elaborate at this time on tourism and on the BPO as we had just did NHI. But let me go to the next step, because all that is mentioned tonight will be tied in. So here we go. Gentlemen, if you remember, not too long ago, there was a talk about crime and violence and all that was happening on the south side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have always said on this show that when these people talk, it's political
Blunder.
narrative. And I will show you why it is political narrative, okay? It is not hard when you listen to these people. It is not hard to understand what is going on. First, I will play the segment 2 of the tape that we are showing tonight and hear what the Prime Minister says.
I retired not too long ago, and and he was talking to us, and he said, he said, John, he said, boy, for the first time, he said, I really feel confident, I really feel good about my country. SIB did when they do their surveys for the first time, they show that people are feeling that Belize is going in the right direction.
And that's where we would have also seen some of the statistics on employment, as well as you mentioned. But PM, while we are acknowledging some of the obvious successes that have been accounted for by yourself, also in the news scene, we also recognize that there were some challenges along the way. Having you here with us, what would you have identified as some of those challenges within your administration, and also the ways that you addressed it?
Well, in life you always have challenges. You don't have challenges when you've expired, when you go into the other world. So it is normal in the development. Challenges, I think that this perception about crime, and use the word perception because I don't think it's not as bad as it is, but because of social media, I was speaking with Minister Musa on Friday. I had a meeting with him, and so when I was talking to him, I said, how do you see things going? And he said, Prime Minister, he said, by every metrics, crime has gone down. But what has happened now is that we live in an era of social media. So as something happened, they blow it up. People, oh my God, and it just cascades from there, and everybody. But we are going in the right direction, and as I told Karim, I commended him and said, you have not been a flashy minister, just been quietly, slowly chipping at it, chipping to try to hold down the level of crime and to control, work with the police, trying to get rid of some of the bad elements and bringing in new people and going through the process in selecting the right persons. So the issue of crime, of course, continues to be in your mind because For you to have a vibrant economy and for people to feel confident about your country, you have to ensure that you have full control over the criminal elements in your country.
PM.
But one more,
Sure.
the issue of climate change, of which we don't have.
No, people at home and abroad, as I said before, political narrative. I had said it on this platform more than once. We have three individuals protecting one another: the Prime Minister, the Minister of Police, and the Commissioner of Police. And I will tell you why I'm saying this.
The gang of three.
Because I will tell you why I'm saying this, people. Because just before the Prime Minister came on this show, Mr. Vasquez had a conversation with Karimusta. And as a part of that conversation, now here you have the Prime Minister trying to protect the Minister of Police. And before I go to you guys, we must go to the tape.
I feel that because of the exceptionalism of the commissioner and the exceptionalism I want to specify at public relations, that you have been spared and you have been unscathed by the fact that we still live in a very dangerous country where crime is a major national public concern.
I mentioned this morning in our Comstat meeting, Jules, that every year, and I heard you on one of the morning shows mention that the police department has taken a special inclination towards the metric of homicides. But what you don't realize is that you created that metric for us. Every single year under the UDP, you would only criticize them one time a year and give them a failing report card at the end of each year. But every week, I get a question from Channel 7 specifically asking me whether I'm concerned that this week's murders concerns me because last year's murder this week is lower. And so every single time for 364 days, we are bombarded with questions and criticisms, specifically from Channel 7. And so I wouldn't say that I am unscathed because I get criticism from the media, and that is important. The media, it plays a very crucial role in keeping us accountable, not just myself as minister or the commissioner of police, but at the same time, for that one day out of the 365 days, we can say congratulations to our police officers for the hard work that they're doing, the LIU for the hard work that they're doing, because we don't listen to the noise. The noise is constant. But at the same time, I think the public is aware that we are doing our very best in terms of improving not just our Belize Police Department, but also our greatest fight, which is a fight against crime.
Now, people at home and abroad and gentlemen sitting with me virtually, it's a shame when you have high individuals trying to protect other individuals. Because the truth of the fact is, I have said it night after night, past and present government has been failing at external policy, internal policy, and domestic policy. They have enacted a constitutional state of emergency to protect tourism. They have used it without any regards to these young men who they have been picking up, even though we have been saying it is unconstitutional. And tonight, people at home and abroad, you will hear it from the Prime Minister's mouth, specifying that it's not really a state of emergency. It's only a temporary fix. But before I go to that, let me go to you first, Mr. Wade, and what we just played.
I just hope, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just hope after listening to Kari Musa and listening to the Prime Minister defending, like you rightfully says, and one must realize it's an election. So the dog now a leg out a bone, and I think the dog have that bone in a mouth, right? And never say well, like the 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 truth, and they're covering up for each other, and I just hope that the people, the mothers, the children, the the poor that has been affected through injustice and to crime and violence, this country, and all those who had been subject to illegal, unconstitutional, a state of emergencies, in the name of with the curve crime. Everything is better when you're just sending in the back for cool off for a little while because there's only poorly black boy to behave bad. I just hope that the people in this country and also tourists, foreigners who have visited this country and has been affected by crime and violence in this country. I hope that they listen to and get some closure and get some good feeling. This is not bad. Everything is okay, right? That's from your prime minister and your minister of police, who is in charge of these heinous crimes, who in charge of making things right. This is what they have to comfort you with, my people. So I just hope that, in 2025, what he said, you're comforted with what he had said. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. But then, if it is as he's saying it, then why is the State Department blacklisting us for tourism? It can't be just the narrative on television, because I'm quite sure that the United States State Department has foreign entities of which they can know exactly what is happening in any and every country. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Exactly would be my statement, Mr. Chairman. Does not the Prime Minister know or understand that while they were putting into effect these dastardly, unconstitutional SOEs or state of emergencies in certain sections of the city, that would have called attention to the United States government as well, because the United States government have its embassies and its personnel in those embassies that are charged with responsibility to do their functions or perform certain functions. The United States government does not need to hear from the Prime Minister about what's going on in the country of Belize, because the United States government is much more appraised and on top of those issues than even the very Prime Minister, who have a tendency to open up the mouth and talk about things where you know go ask the statisticians them about, or the other senior people them about, before you open up the mouth and say the wrong thing. We've been telling him to stop doing that for years now, and he refuses. So the United States, when the Prime Minister is saying that the black people on South Side no need no passport because they're not going to America, partially is because he is blacklisting those people. He have the police minister and the police minister is also a liar, by the way, and the commissioner, who is also a liar, by the way, create bogus SOEs to go and harass these people and suppress and oppress these people in the South Side and use them as fodder When he does that, he shouldn't be surprised that the United States government picks up as well and say the South Side should be a no-go place for its American citizens and advise them to the same. Why? Because as far as the Prime Minister and the Americans are concerned, South Sides are black people. They don't say the same thing about North Side where a lot of mayhem is going on. They don't say the same thing as Orange Walk or Corozal or Cayo and even Stan Creek, where a lot of craziness is going on in Stan Creek, in fact, in Toledo too, all over the country. And we don't see no SOE being put in any part of the country. In fact, where they have the drug wars in the north, they went to the house and picked up an extra $1 million, said that they want to apply that to try and curb the drug trafficking in the north, as if $1 million was going to do anything. That is just to put out for somebody else's pocket. But there was no SOE put up there, which should have been done. But you see, nobody on the South Side need to get no passport. None of them need to have any clean police record so that they could go to the consulate and get one visa, right? And then they have them home there. They can't get the jobs. They can't survive. But he, the Prime Minister, could look in at VPS now and say he have to bring in other people from abroad because the country needs workers. What the country needs are proper policies of state that the government implements to favor the local Belizeans first and foremost, and not to stamp on the local Belizeans and take away the patrimony of the country from the local Belizeans and give all those options and goodies to the people that he is trying to bring in. That's what the problem is. But then he points his finger in a different direction because he don't want to be held or perceived as being culpable or the person that's managing the affairs of the country in such a way as to cause the problems that we are now dealing with. He always try to go and point out that it's somebody else's problem or it's somebody else causing the problem. The people them on the South Side, they're not the one that's interacting with the tourists. In fact, very few tourists come to Belize City anymore, except those who come on the airplane sometimes. And even those that come on the airplane, they take a short plane flight out to the Keys. Tourism in Belize City is not like it used to be when the Feinstein had the tourism village at Fort Point. The big ships that go to the other island down south, they don't bring their people to Belize City. If anybody gets off those boats, they take them on the mainland and they take them to Placencia, or they take them to the cacao place, or they take them up into the Mayan mountains and to go and see different, or they take them out to the Keys to go fish or swim. So why use Belize outside as the battering ram, or as the when and the blame to the shortcoming? But I want to go to Mr. Chairman. Permit me, just I know I was going a little long, but permit me to say this one thing here. The tourism minister himself, whom the Prime Minister was praising, that he was doing so good and that he had so much confidence in him, was the one who blocked him off in cabinet from moving forward with Puerto Rico. Do we remember that? No, we probably forgot according to him. But he is so in love with the gentleman right now, to the point where the gentleman is so bold-faced as to try and throw in America's face the fact that he could care less about America classifying us as having a problem with our Southside community, and of warning their people to not go to that part of the country. Doesn't he understand geoeconomics? You see that much of a neophyte that just got into office for the first term, and the Prime Minister gave him an extra $50 million to make it play with, to suborn, so he could go around and find a way to get back to Puerto Rico or whatever else not. These gentlemen are just playing fast and loose on Belize. They're telling us one thing and then they're doing something else while they're fattening up themselves at the public trial. But I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman. No, I went a little long.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. People at home and abroad, and now here in Belizean Affairs we show and tell. We had sit here nights after nights and we had open conversation about unconstitutional acts that are performed by our present government and past government. We have specified how they tell on themselves. Some people who are in disbelief wanted to know how we know these things, but if you read your constitution and you follow up on it, you will know these things when they're happening. We have specified the state of emergency was unconstitutional because Section 18 of the Constitution specifies how a state of emergency should come to pass, and it should be statewide. But let's not hear it from us here on Belizean Affair. Let's hear it from your Prime Minister.
Self-accomplishment, they don't see that need to go into a life of crime. When you look at the issue of crime, most of the murders are based is drug related. Yeah. Most of it. Now, I'm not trying for a second to be dismissive. Yeah. One murder is one too many.
One of the second feedback that we also have seen time and time again from the public where the crime situation is concerned is one of the solutions coming from the Belize Police Department in that of the state of emergency lockdowns in certain parts of the country. And we've gotten several feedbacks. We've gotten several feedback from viewers even. I mean, we've heard directly from you guys in many instances saying that this is sort of a band-aid solution. How do you respond to that, PM?
Actually, Dr. Gale was on
I saw that interview, actually.
I think that my very good friend, Jules Vasquez, was very disappointed with that interview.
And I'm glad that you tuned in, because now we can get an even deeper
Well, reflection. I did not tune in, but I just I got snippets about what happened. Basically, and again, when I'm so happy I had more than an hour speaking alone with Minister Musa, with Karim, and he said, listen, when I was in opposition, I was following Dr. Gale, and I was seeing what he was doing, and basically a lot of what he was promoting and talking about is what we're doing, working on the streets with these young guys, trying to see if you could have mediation between the warring factions, trying to find how you could put them to work. Not about giving them money not to work, but to go to work, finding jobs for them. And they said, but unfortunately, as Dr. Gale was very strong in his views, that sometimes you need one time out. At home, when you and your brother fight, and and what does your parents do on time out? You go to your room, stay in there for half an hour, stay in there for an hour, depends how bad it is, or in the classroom. That same analogy works on the streets. When these guys are out there warring at one another, what you have to do, the best is that call for a timeout. I hate the word state of emergency because it's not the entire state, the entire country, but it's a section. So we've been talking with Minister Musa and trying to see if we could come up with a different terminology, because really it's not a state of emergency. Basically, it's a timeout for these guys and lock them up for them to calm down. But this time we went as much as 120 days. And I'm serious when I said if we have to hold them up longer, we're going to hold them up longer. Because that's the only way they're going to, that's the only way we can have peace on the streets, and we are going to do it. Look at what Bukele did in El Salvador. I was talking to my cousin yesterday. My cousin has 2 daughters living in El Salvador. He was living in El Salvador for a little while. Now he's in the U.S. and his daughter can't be with him yet. But he said the daughters were telling them a few years ago they can't walk on the streets. Mm-hmm. Or wherever you go, there's these people with huge guns. By the cathedral, you could not go there in the evenings because they're going to hold you up. And now you could walk anywhere. What did Bukit? Now that's an extreme example. That
very extreme.
Very extreme.
Which he also
it's
spoke
something
about.
that is I believe it's unsustainable. Like eventually you have to
It is.
let them go.
So let's.
So wait, I'm coming to my point.
Sure.
We are only about 400 a day, And I'm not in any way, please, I don't want anybody to misconstrue that I'm saying that we're going to lock them up, no. But if we have to hold them up for 120 days until they could calm down and then go out in society, we are going to do that. Because it is not fair to the people in these neighborhoods who have good, decent, hard working, law-abiding citizens that live in fear for these guys when they start out shooting. And then they shoot, and in many instances, the innocent people get hurt. So if we have to do that, we're going to do it. So my point is, it is not a band-aid. It's a temporary solution for things to calm down. And then we put the Nuri Mohammeds of the world to go and to talk to them and try to find a resolution amongst them. Who knows? Maybe, and it's left to be seen, if we would have legalized marijuana, it takes away from the criminal elements. Because now you are paying tax and then...
Oh, man.
People at home and abroad, gentlemen sitting on this platform virtually, I have said the state of emergency
What is
was
our next panelist?
unconstitutional. Good night to you, Mr. Gregory Morrison.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to all of you. And
We
good evening
welcome you,
to all those
sir.
out
Thank you for
We
gracing us with your
welcome you,
presence.
sir, on the platform. I know you heard a piece of the tape. Here we have the Prime Minister telling on himself that the state of emergency was unconstitutional.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I know
sir, go ahead.
you're probably intending to go to Mr. Morrison. Can I take a shot, please? Quickly?
Go ahead,
I
sir.
promise I'm not going to be too long. Why is the Prime Minister pretending that he doesn't know that the state of emergency is unconstitutional, and the way they approach trying to put them or implement them is also illegal, and that they have a right to be able to do the right thing, but they choose not to do the right thing and victimize the whole community? When in fact the right thing would be to use the powers of state for the police officers to go and arrest the people that they know not only are gang members, because that's not illegal in our country, by the way, as some people and government officials try to stipulate it. It is not illegal to belong to a group. But I don't want to divert. I want to stay with the point. Why don't the police take the powers vested in them as the lawmen of the country and go and arrest and put away the individuals who are the troublemakers when they commit the crimes, instead of just go after the whole damn section of the society and penalize everybody? They fail to do their job and do their job adequately, and then turn around now, as the police commissioner was acknowledging the other day, what we have been telling them for so many months and over a year now, they're just coming around to acknowledging it and saying, well, it wasn't right, it was illegal, but they had to try and do something. Do your job. That's all we're asking you to do. Do your job. You are empowered as a police commissioner and police officers to arrest criminals. Don't turn the whole rest of the society or a big section of the population into scofflaws or look at them as if they are also criminals, because not everybody is a criminal. But when you have police officers disappearing the evidence from out of the police files because these big drug lords are paying them money, which for all intents and purposes, in other words, I'm saying, you have scoundrels inside of a police department that are causing problems. Go after them. Investigate the process. Investigate the files, the people who are exposed to those files. Do your job as a police department. Don't go making unconstitutional rules and regulations under the pretext that you're fulfilling the requirements that you have to fulfill in order to make your SOE legal. And that is the problem that we have with the Prime Minister trying to make excuses, with the Minister of Police trying to make excuses, and with the Commissioner. Now, after the fact, because we're getting close to an election, they want to come off as being nice guys. Oh, and they want to acknowledge how wrong they were. It's just bamboozling to give us another 5 years of the same crap they've been giving us over the last 4.5, 5 years. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I go to you, Mr. Morrison.
Yeah. Well, I did hear a bit of what the Prime Minister said, and I do agree with what Mr. Leonard Brackett was saying. It is excessive when they put the whole community in restraint because of a few bad apples. And I think they mention it many times that probably we have a couple thousand people that's creating this disruption within the society. And probably it is time that we find a way of removing those individuals from the society. It doesn't mean that you're forever going to have that situation if you don't change the circumstances on the ground, because it will just breed more. But probably what we need to do is to identify these societies, create legislation that create a work gang or something of that sort. And I don't like talking about that because it reckons back to slavery and those type of time. But it does, forcing people to labor. But I think that it would be appropriate to segregate those individuals. We know who they are. The police
Mr.
know who
Morrison,
they are.
Mr. Morrison, it is unconstitutional to do under our present constitution what you just proposed, sir. So it's your opinion, your ideas, you're entitled to it.
No,
Whatever it
that's
is.
why I said create appropriate legislation.
Anyhow,
That was my first
it's
comment.
all right. I didn't mean to.
Under the Constitution,
let
it
me
is.
yield back. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Morrison, if I may ask the question,
Yes.
isn't it a fact that when you have a country like the US supporting the Belizean police and donating equipment and vehicles to curb crime, and you have an embassy here that instead of using the television station as the tool that is announcing crime, portraying it to be more than what it is, you are the one who is doing it when you hold state of emergency, that the State Department has to curb its visitors in the name of tourists from coming to your country? I go back to you, sir.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that the television stations are announcing crime more than what's happening or reporting false activities of criminal activities. But I do know they emphasize every event, and that creates a kind of a within the mindset of people. It creates a kind of peak of things happening when probably it is normal. When you look at the rate of murder, I mean, you look at countries like Jamaica and some of the other, even Trinidad, I think the other day, had very high crime and killing and such that goes on within those society. I know Jamaica has 4 times the population or 6 times the population of Belize. I think they're like 3 million or something like that. So it's not always easy to make those type of comparison, but we do know that the crime is ridden throughout most of the Caribbean countries in very high and disproportionate amount to the population. But I think that when they announce it as they do, when the radio station and TV station announce it as they do, it does create that overemphasis of awareness of activities, and I don't think it's overrated in terms of not overrated. They're overemphasizing it in terms of making up numbers and stuff, but
I-
they are presenting
If
it
I may,
in a
Mr.
way.
Morrison, the question was, regardless of what the TV station is doing, when you as a government is failing at domestic policy, unable to curb crime, that you have to call a state of emergency that is unconstitutional because it's not the whole state. It's only for 400 gentlemen.
Yeah.
Aren't you the one that is putting out to the State Department, the US State Department, that you have a problem,
Yeah. Well,
and because
yes.
of this, they are warning their tourists not to come to Belize?
Yeah. Well, yes, and I think as the new administration take hold and we have not been receptive to some of their policies, I think we're going to see more severe warning like this taking place. And so I think we need to make sure that we are playing our cards right and we're not feeding into the fiasco that will be created.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
I just wanted to add one more thing. I thought
Go ahead,
Mr. Leonard
sir.
had his hand up and I was
Yeah,
yielding to
I
him.
was waiting, but go ahead, sir. The chairman runs the
Oh,
show. I'm
I
just
was
trying to get his attention.
oh I was going to say that I'm not quite sure on the constitutionality of state of emergency. I know government has limited power to act in state of emergency, and using it as the way to the consistently using it as this way since for the last 10-15 years, I think it shows that they're not growing. And it doesn't matter which government we have in power. They need to look at what it will take in terms of resources. The prime minister mentioned probably if we had legalized marijuana, we would have not been seeing the issues that we're facing today with it. But government policies need to take shape to make sure that the citizens are protected, but also that there's gainful employment for the citizens of the country so that we don't have to use this backdoor way of earning money and creating the violence on the street that is a potential harm to anyone out there.
Mr. Morrison, I thank you. But to rebuttal on what you just said, these young men are already classified in our society. They cannot find a job. So then, would it be safe to say that when the Prime Minister speaks about legalizing marijuana, he's talking about taxing gentlemen that can't work? That is what he's talking about. In other words, it's another form of bringing income to the government because if these young men are not working, why legalize something you know they use when they won't be able to pay taxes on it? I go to you quick, Mr. Brackett, before I go to Mr. Weird.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, as regards to the prime minister intimating the legalization of marijuana may have or could have been a solution to part of the problem, I'd venture to say that he's quite versed and understand the problems that marijuana has brought to Belize before and can still bring to Belize today, even though they try to legalize small portions of it. Because as far as I could see, the US has already declared Belize a narco state. Am I wrong? Am I
No,
stipulating
you're
something
not,
that is not
sir.
known or that is not correct so far? No. So I wouldn't advise that our government walks down that street because that would just be another street where the Belize people would get mobbed because of government malfeasance and misdirection. They're claiming that they don't care what America does about tourism. It means that if America puts their thumb on our tourism industry and messes up our economy, that we, the Belizean people, want to feel again that we will have to come up with some kind of way to provide the government or for the government to squeeze money out of. They're not going out in one pocket and say, well, because I said something that America was annoyed about, I must put some money in at the thing now that America's tourism is not helping our economy. No, they will still try to continue to bleed our economy. So I just hope that the Americans are smart enough as regards to those realities and don't turn around and throw the whole baby and bathwater together, because that wouldn't be fair either. And like you said, Mr. Morrison, with the new administration coming in, they will be much less tolerable than the present one. So these people that we have as our government officers back home have to be sensitized to the reality that things are going to get worse before it ever gets better, if it gets better any at all. Because when it comes to foreign policy, the American government or the United States of America is very consistent with their foreign affairs, regardless of who is in power. They always go to bat on behalf of the country's interests first and foremost, rather than on behalf of any kind of interest that we, small, puny Belize, have. So we got to be careful how we tread and work this geopolitical and economic situation. Not that we want to be a sellout totally, because I mean that wouldn't be fair either, right? But we need to be measured.
Thank
We need to
you.
have people who are competent and are capable and willing to stop playing games with our foreign policies.
Thank
We
you,
can't have
Mr.
the Minister
Brackett.
of Tourism disparaging one of the biggest countries that helps us with our economy and with our tourism, and affords all Belizean abroad to come home and bring money or send money to help our economy. We cannot be finding ourselves indulging in that kind of wishy-washy and willy-nilly behavior on the part of our ministers. So I'll leave for right now, because I know Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
you promised to bring in Mr. Wade, no?
Thank you. Well said there, Mr. Morrison, and well said there too, Leonard. Mr. Chairman, as a former law enforcement officer, right? Um, when it comes to the situation with crime and violence, no, and gangs and drugs and all these situation that we have in our country, and here you have this man who will say, well, might want to legalize marijuana. Um, I say this to say that none of these guys, the prime minister, the Musa guy who is the minister of police and the commissioner of police, none of them is looking at the root cause, right? They're all afraid to do the right thing. And all these state of emergencies, he dismissed the notion about band-aid fix. That's what it is. He don't want to hear that word, right? And from his mouth, that's the best they could come up with, right? That's the best. When these big minds, the commissioner of police, who had so much years in police department, the minister of police, who knows nothing about police, but he's the minister of police, the prime minister who knows nothing about policing, but he's the boss, right? And when these, and not to mention their attorneys too, when they sit down around the table and addressing crime and violence, the best they could come up with is what they had done. Not the first time, not the second time, not the third time, past and present. They do not want to solve the crime situation in this country. You hear them say, well, we know all the criminals, They're just one handful, right? The streets, they're not changing in a Belize City. The houses, they not change. The bad man, they not change. They just have a revolving door. See what I'm saying? That they don't want to address the root cause and address the issues. What he mentioned, the black boy there, what he went do with it, and he mentioned jobs a little bit. Which one are the main driver in a way that may curb some crime? Because no jobs. What do you think all these graduate from so much GCs and so much papers they have, what they end up doing? Sit around the corner and sell weed. And he focusing on legalized marijuana. They say that the justice system that was a problem in this country. See that. Like I say, the bad man, with little small little Belize. This one I know. I know a lot of them. But the Prime Minister know them. They say it publicly, The Minister of Police, Mr. Musa, know them. And the Commissioner of Police know
for some of them.
But what happened? You have in this country a PUP criminal underground, and you have a UDP criminal underground. Would never be shaken. When the PUP is in power, the PUP criminals have platters. When the UDP, I know what I'm telling is I've been experienced, right? See it, know it, work with it. You think Johnny Brisenia want to address that?
No.
You think Dean Barrow or this younger fool Barrow want to address that?
No.
So, two entities we have, where we at in 2025? If we want to solve this problem, we got to get rid of them. If not, we'll never go away. You think the UDP want to send his criminals in jail? No. You think the UDP want to, who makes them, who supports them, who do for them? Mm-hmm. Well, let's sit in their office, handling the briefcase. You have their criminals out there working. Who speaks about these things? Maybe they want to, but they're afraid to speak about it. Yeah. Other entities know. The U.S. government know what's going on in this country. Only we don't know. So you hear a little bit from me.
Thank you.
To say.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you. At this time, gentlemen, I want to touch a part of something that is very important. And when I say important, very, very important. Let's hear it from the Prime Minister.
That is going to ensure that people get to go. So I think I thought it's surprised that said, but I think they misconstrued what he was referring to about winning on election day. But Jaime was the first one to me said, "Why Johnny say you win election before? Because if you don't put on the work, you can't win on election day."
PM, we looked at what your strengths and weaknesses were in terms of the conversation we've been having, and I've listened keenly and I've come up with what I believe was one of your shortcomings in this administration. Failure to carry out the redistricting exercise. When you guys were in opposition, you guys were part of that movement to have the redistricting done. You took office and it seemingly went away and it wasn't dealt with in the manner in which it should have been dealt with. Would you look at that and say, yes, we perhaps fell short on that end?
Probably. Yes, probably that could be a shortcoming. But for the fact that there was a presentation, and I think basically both parties were not too satisfied with the way it has been set up. But we did what we have to do. We have taken it to the House, and it's still in the House committee. And I know you could say, well, you got majority, you could call the House committee at any time. And yes, we could have done it before, but we didn't. But I can give you an assurance that as soon as we get in, that's going to be a priority. We have to do re-registration in the next government, and I plan to work on it from the first year. Well, not us, to ensure the redistricting, sorry. And it's not the government, but it is the Elections and Boundaries Commission. Remember, we need to know the process. They are the ones that leads the process for the redistricting exercise, and then it's given us as a government or to the government to then take to the House. It's the House that either accepts or rejects the redistricting exercise.
Do you believe that it had to have gone to the extent where it is before the court now, or it should have been something that I would want to think could have been dealt with in short order, considering the fact that you were on the side of redistricting prior to November 2020?
You really try to find something gone wrong with this government, not true?
I'm just calling it what it is.
I'm not going to argue on that one. That I believe that the Elections and Boundaries Commission could have worked faster or more diligent in it, and probably have more consultations with the public and to see how best it can work. And so we, at the end of the day, we are the government, and I'm as the head have to take the responsibility. So I would take responsibility for that. But I can assure you that we want, as soon as we get in, to make sure that we start working on it. I'm hoping that within 1 or 2 years at the most, we should be able to already have that settled.
PM, in our final few minutes with you, we are extending questions from the floor.
Sure.
And so we have some viewers wanting to ask you some questions. Our first one is from Dion Flowers, and he is asking...
Who is it?
Gentlemen, I had to touch on that redistricting tip because I have sit here and we have had open conversation about it. Mr. Wade, you know, we have had this conversation. I have spoken about campaign financing law. We have talked about the misuse of taxpayers' money when election is around. And I can tell you that since we have lobbied so hard about the government not doing what they are doing, the government has finally, after all this time, hired an audit general. How amazing! After we had lobbied so hard for it. Okay? So, Mr. Brackett, I give the floor to you. 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. The Prime Minister is acknowledging or stipulating that when they win, by the way, he's not talking when they win in 2020 or no. He's talking about when they win in 2025, whenever it comes, whether sooner or later. That's how much of a jackal we're dealing with, as I usually like to say. Then after that, he's hoping that maybe within 2 years after they win, they might be able to resolve the issue. The damn issue can be resolved in less than a week. I have given them information, the technical means and ways and methods of how to resolve those issues. From 1996, I've been providing them with information at the election and boundaries department every election, prior to the election and after the election, to try and encourage them to do the right thing, which was this redistricting, reapportionment, and fulfilling Section 90 under the Constitution. And it can be done in short order. They don't want to do it. That's the problem. Because they get them voting like they said in 20, and they make 25 come for the next election 5 years after, and they come and tell you the same thing they are getting when the election is called. And after you get in, then you can think about getting it done within the next 2 years after that. 5 years after that one pass, and the man will still give us the same promise for the next upcoming election after that. The idiots you think they deal with. But I yield back, Mr. Chairman. I
Thank
know
you, Mr.
Gregory needs
Morrison.
to be given an
Well,
opportunity.
to make redistricting constitutional, we do need to have valid and accurate census information. I don't know when the last census was taken. It's supposed to be done every 10 years. I'm not sure that we have done one within that time frame. But to make it work, we do need to know what that census information is. And then from that, we could start looking at redistricting and how to proportion properly the parliamentary seats that are available. But I do know once we do it, it's going to shift the emphasis of power in terms of electoral
Those numbers,
constituents.
Sorry, Mr. Morrison, those numbers are being updated and upgraded regularly by the Department of Election and Boundaries, sir.
No, I know, but it has to be accurate based on the census. And I don't think we had done.
The census, or even if you wait for the census, sir, the census is never going to be 100% complete.
Of course. But we need to.
Off people. The people go off, new people come on, and there's always a way how these guys. I'm telling you what I understand. I know the system.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying. I'm just putting out there what needs to be done. The census, of course, it's always people born and people die, and so it is, and people move around and stuff, and so it's always going to not be but it needs to be the constitutional
by the hundreds, and the ones that they're bringing temporarily for the election. All kind of craziness goes on. So I'm not beating up on what you're saying. I'm just saying that if they really want to do it, it could have been done all these days and weeks and months and years that has gone by.
Yes. I agreed. I think the Prime Minister admitted there wasn't that effort and diligence in trying to get it done because the current system.
2 years after they get elected, no, he don't come from being elected right now.
The current system serves both political parties, as corrupt as it is. It serves the PUP, it serves the UDP, and so there's no pressure from them to see that it's done because they have their linkage to the corrupt.
They should be doing it. They shouldn't be so fierce as to violate the Constitution in our face and fight against people who are trying to get them to do it with our own coffers. That's how barefaced these people are. They tell you that they're going to do it. Then they come back and they acknowledge and say, well,
Mr. Brackett,
they get caught and they get pressured.
Mr. Brackett, if I may, right?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Morrison, I sit here and I listen to both of you talking about how it can be done. As a professional in information technology, redistricting can be done in a day because it is done with software and it is done through zoning. Okay? So don't let nobody fool you about 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
He has to have a basis. He has to have a basis of doing it, Mr. Brackett. It needs to be done based on the census, the census information.
Most of the information that would be required or needed to do a correct update is available already in the department, sir. It's just that what they didn't do a correct process because for political influences that was bearing down on them from the commission itself. Okay? They could have done the job the right way from the very first time and sent it up to the Congress. And if the Congress want to refuse it, that's their business. There's no guarantee that the Congress will accept, even if it's perfectly done. The point is that the election and boundaries, by their failure, gives the Congress a way out. They're supposed to do their job, and then the Congress is supposed to do their job. And it should fall on the
Yeah.
Congress not wanting to do the right thing.
Anyway,
You
let,
keep
Let have
saying
the
let
election and
Congress
hear what
instead
boundaries
of
Mr.
Parliament,
not
Morrison
do
but
has
its
to
job.
say. Finish up, Mr. Morrison.
yeah. No, I was just going to say that Mr. Brackett keeps saying Congress, but it is Parliament.
That's it,
Parliament
sir. Thank you very much for the correction.
does have the final say in it, and I do hope that they move ahead with it because it is constitutional, and it shouldn't have been forced to go to court. And actually, if the court was acting in proper order, it would have
Which they're
required
not.
that it be done before the election, because there's no need to hold an election in the time frame that I suspect the prime minister is setting up to do it. And redistricting could be done in probably
Short order. That's the
6 to 8 months,
will.
which would give enough time to call the election within the constitutional period, I think, of November of 2025. So the fact that he's using that, I
Doesn't know
think,
how to
is
do it.
problematic. And I
He's a
think that
scoundrel.
I don't know what the ruling or what if the court has made any decisions on the lawsuit before it, but I believe that they could in fact instruct the government to have the election and boundaries have a um,
The more
a
appropriate.
census, not a census, but a redistricting using the data that's available. But I also
Miss,
said I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if that data is within the last 10
Mr.
years as
Morrison,
constitutionally required.
I hate to be the one to say this. The buck stops with the head of state. The Prime
Governor
Minister
General.
repeatedly keeps saying that it is the election and boundaries who is supposed to do it. But there is no separation of powers, and the election of boundaries should be run by the GG, who is
But there's a
now I'm
commission.
referring to as a rubber stamp,
Mr. Chairman,
because
there's a
there should
commission.
be no outside interference.
There's
But
a commission between the election and boundaries and the GG, sir.
we are having outside interference because the present government is bent on
Meddling.
winning the election. And I will tell you why I'm saying this. Because the Prime Minister has no regards for the Constitution and redistricting. Because this is what he said.
We're not going after them. We're just defending ourselves. We did not go after them. They are coming after us as a government, and we have to defend ourselves. This has been a long, drawn-out process, and we all recognize that it's something that has to be done. Unfortunately, the report that was given to us, and it has been tabled in the House, is still in House Committee. I don't know. It seems that they can't come to an agreement, and we can't force them to do, whatever it is that needs to be done. But we're waiting for that. But at the same time, we have to defend ourselves. In many instances, we don't give it attention.
Now imagine when he says they are coming after us, the Prime Minister, the head of state, should be careful how he speaks because the Belizean public is protected by our constitution. And when you refer to they are coming after us, you are speaking about the whole population because constitutionally redistricting should have been done. But you have no intention to do it because it is politicizing and gerrymandering to win an election. Mr. Wade, I go to you for your comments, sir. And unless the chairman wants to go a little bit more, I think
Yeah,
we have reached that time.
Where are we?
At
What
1:34,
time,
sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Uh, this is a very critical and important issue, and we might as well give it another um, 5 6 minutes. Go to 40. Let's see if we can make it to 40 and have it close out by then, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir,
Thank you.
Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Greg, Chairman. You know, the guy speak, you know, um, you know, out of whack because first of all, I, as one of the claimant, not going after him, right? Only trying to tell him that he's failing something that should have done 15 years ago, right? And he promised the Belizean people, promised the voters, promised the taxpayers, and promised the country that
Mm-hmm.
right after the 2020 election, the unelected man, his main man says, yes, we're going to do it because it's necessary and it should be done. 2020, we are at 2025. And you hear what he said? Hear what he said? For you fanatics out there, is that right? Is that a way that a leader should, you know, portray himself when he swore an oath to protect the Constitution, protect you? Is he doing that? It should have been that we had to go this way. Who does that? What kind of a individual do something like that? And yet, it's all okay. He said, "Yeah, our next 5 years," and he went do it. So, my people, I leave you all with this. I want you to tell your ear representative, whether he or a she, tell them that it's only fair that you table in the House that this People's United Party do what's right by people and nation and by the Constitution of Belize, not the Constitution of Briseno, PUP party or UDP party, the Constitution of Belize demand you to do that. So we the people tell your area representatives that it has to be done before the PUP announce another illegal election. Then this will be the third illegal as per our constitution.
And
It will be the
till November
third
to get it done.
illegal election that he, Briseno, is going to hold on the People's United Party. Okay? So tell your area representative that we the people demand redistricting before the next general election. Not what
Mr. Wade,
Briseno is
that we
insinuating.
demand
Okay?
a proper redistricting,
And it's
because
not
the
hard.
redistricting that they have right now on the table was bastardized.
And I
They
want to
deliberately
tell
so to
Briseno
create
this.
mischief. We want
Who elect
stuff.
your election and boundaries committee? Who do they serve, Mr. Man? Not serve me. Serve you and the People's United Party. And I tell you this, that bill that you says is hold up and they bounce on and they kick it out, where they kick it both, bullcrap. You have no
He is the Prime
intention.
Minister. He decides what comes to the
Mr. Man,
what
you
comes to the
said
House of
you are the
Representatives or
boss
not.
and going to have a super majority. Right? I, as one born Belizean, an electorate and a taxpayer, I demand, man, I need equal representation, Mr. Man. Equal. Not me up here that's going to contest an election with 10,000 voters. And you there, Mr. Shanborough, with 2,000. Musas with maybe 3,000. Where is the fairness? Where is the fairness? That's all. Is that so hard to do, man? Is the right thing so hard to do? Right?
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Gentlemen, I thank you guys for sitting
That's
in.
my closing.
I thank you,
Greg,
Mr. Wade.
Greg,
Yes,
Greg,
sir.
you want to give Mr. Morrison? He's not always on the show. He's on
Right.
tonight.
Yeah.
You want to let us give him another few minutes so he could give his final
Yes,
thoughts,
go
and
ahead,
then we'll
Mr.
come in.
Morrison.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I just wanted to, I kind of mentioned it in passing last time that as we complete this new redistricting, it's going to shift the balance of power within our country. It's going to move Belize City from having that many constituent seats to far less than it does currently because of the population shift within the country. And so Belize City is going to lose constituents, and other districts are going to pick up constituents as we make this change. So it is going to be very interesting to watch how this truly plays out. And that's one of the reasons why I believe both governments have found it quite difficult to make this, because they don't want to face that reality based on the demographic shift that have happened in the country over the last, I'd say, 25 years, 20 to 25 years.
It's all about power, Mr. Morrison. It's all about power.
Oh, sorry. They both
Not too hard to do. It's all about power. None of them want to give up power.
The PUP brought in a lot of people.
And the right thing to do.
The UDP brought in a lot of people, and that is the outcome that we have right now. They both conspired to make that happen. It shouldn't have had to be like that.
All we're asking for them to do the right thing. Not the wrong thing, the right thing.
Yep. Gentlemen,
thank you very much.
Great program.
Thank you. I believe, gentlemen, redistricting will not come about because there's two names.
Thanks, Mr. Wade.
Two names that will get.
Greg, I need to close
yes.
down, brother.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
Are you talking about the seat in Fort George and the seat for the leader of the opposition? Those are going to be both probably that go away in some redistricting.
No, the way the process works is that the seat that's the oldest in existence stays, and then the next one next to it that's.
I am speaking, I believe,
about. I'm talking about the change that happens. You could call it whatever
Mr.
you want to
Morrison,
call it.
I believe there's two brothers that is going to be affected.
Yes.
One, Caribbean Shores is new, so that will go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I understand, but more than that will go, because when you do the redistricting, Belize district will, rather than having 10, Belize district will have about seven to 6 seats based on population.
Gentlemen, I thank you guys for sitting on the panel tonight. I believe we had a good show, but to make my last comment, I think we will not see a redistricting if this general election is won by the present government, because within the next 5 years, our flag will change.
Republic of Belize.
Exactly. There you go, sir. There you go.
And then Guatemala going to pick up the pieces of what's left after that start. Because that's not going to be
With
funny.
that said, sir, good night to the people at home and abroad. We thank you for tuning in to this 242nd episode of Belizean Affair.
Very nice,
I thank all who posted their comment, and we invite you to tune in again on Wednesdays as we continue.
Greg, about 30 seconds, we want to acknowledge some of the people, so a lot of them will not acknowledge.
Mr. Wade, can you see that, sir?
I can't right now. Leonard, I can't.
At least just to mention the names. Now we don't have to go
I
into the
can't
detail
see the.
because I'll normally write something when I get off the show. No, that's what I usually try to do.
Well, what I will say to them, as I said, we thank them for tuning in. They are most
Thank you.
highly appreciated, and I hope they continue to tune in to Belizean Affairs. With that said, I would like to say good night.